Let's start by loading the set from the last tutorial, which is just as easy. Simply click Load Save here and then click on Load. And then you can choose whatever project you have. We're in the default project directory inside the teleport folder sets, and I just open demo.tport. Now it's loading data into all the modules, but since we're working on a complete set, not just a song or a track, once it shows done here, you won't see anything because you would then first need to choose a number for each module. Which of course we can do just with the main page, and there we have it. Exactly where we left off, playing as we remember it. Now a quick note here on the main page, it remembers all the numbers of the modules and they themselves remember what's in them. So it remembers here number 1 the mixer channel, for example, and that remembers which input, what VSTs, what VST presets, all the send information and so on. With instruments there's a little bit more detail. It remembers each of these inputs individually, and it remembers if it's on or not, and it remembers the patch name, and it's then the patch name themselves that remember what instruments to choose. So to quickly exemplify that, if I then here selected a zip roulette instead, just quickly make some changes to make it less rough, and save that as zebra test, for example. You'll then see I can simply switch between the patch and it remembers which instrument to use, which is really handy already right there. Anyways, one of the really most interesting things about teleport is the way that you can augment the sequences. Here it's just playing, and we can play around with the offset. It's great fun and everything, and you can play with the duration scale, and there's a lot of fun things going on already, but not very practical in terms of changing the notality. And so let's set up the MIDI keyboard to change that, which is done with the node module that sort of spread out into this field, and we'll cover that in much more detail as we go along. But to begin with, all the dir names in this list means direct, and step direct then means that it's playing what's inside step, so I can change the notality. I could put another node in there, and then we're going with something more composed. But then what if I chose step control? First you won't hear anything because it relies on keyboard input. But if I set up the range here, like to the full keyboard, exactly as when we did this with the direct play, then put on grab and hold, you can then see here A0, A1, etc., which is the last note I pressed on the MIDI keyboard. This note is then offsetting what's inside the step module, which is really, really, really practical. Related to that is monoval, which does exactly the same, except no matter what you have put inside the step module, it always plays the last note you pressed on the keyboard. So there, for example, we have, and we can play what we were playing last time with the keyboard like this. Hold is whether it holds the note or not. So if I turn it off, I have to hold down the note for it to play, which is actually really practical. Grab is then whether it grabs the note or not. So here, for example, it plays the last grab note no matter what key I hold down, which can be really good to use once in a while and take it on and off for a certain module. These monophonic modes are really quite fun, but there's also all these A modes that are polyphonic. So if I choose a chord direct, for example, which does not care about grab and hold since it's polyphonic, you can see here I can play full chords that will then move in whatever rhythm my time modules are playing. So what if I combine the two of those, for example, that this one over here then would use a monoval, just again pretty good plain. Then we have sort of a base that follows along. And let's say I don't want it to go that high, but only here to C1, as you can see I'm holding down. I would just punch in C1 here, and now you can improvise like crazy, still just with one time point and one step in each step module. We already have a fully improvisable double instrument. So let's save this again and build from there in the next tutorial. And just as in the last tutorial, we need to store the modules before saving to disk. So you could just click store there. And since we didn't change anything else, we don't have to store anything else. And you would just go and say save. So soon we'll be having more of a detailed look at how to work with time and also how to use modulation graphs.